first things first, he's a busy man. He's got a lot going on. And that would be none other than the Hall of Famer Marty Brennaman. We were talking before we went off the air, Dad. Good morning, by the way. And
good morning to you, Tom.
And it was noted by Brandon Seho and Casey McAllister are at times exceptional producers, at other times not so much, that you look very, very dapper today in that shirt. They were comparing your shirt to my shirt, and I told them I look very handsome and very sharp today. I'm not sure about what that thing is you have on. Is that green? What is that color?
Yeah, it's a green and navy blue, and quite honestly, this shirt might cost more money than your entire wardrobe today.
That's what I was going to say. We can't afford the shirts that Marty has, but they look great.
So there you go. I rest my case.
Well, I'm not so sure. I think you may have overspent on that shirt. Hey, Aaron Judge, he hits number 60 last night. I know there are a lot of people, and I don't want to speak for you, I'll let you speak for you, that feel like Roger Maris' 61 home runs is the real single-season home run record, not the one owned by Barry Bonds. This guy is doing it so much under the radar, Dad, and maybe not in New York City, but nationally. Do you feel the same way about that? That there aren't a lot of people talking about what he's doing right now?
I do. And for me, now on the outside looking in, my feeling is that the reason it's like that is because of the fact that home runs have become a ho-hum thing in baseball. We can turn the clock back. I can certainly remember when Roger Maris hit his 61st home run off Tracy Stallard in 1960. I was in a fraternity house in college and saw him hit the home run. We neither one of us can go back to when Babe Ruth set the record, but Babe Ruth was a man who revolutionized, so to speak, the long ball in baseball when he hit 60 home runs in one season, and that standard stood up until Maris did his. Today, home runs are a dime a dozen. It's all about home runs, strikeouts, and walks. So I think from a national perspective, and for baseball fans around the world, it's great for Aaron Judge. He seems to be a stand-up, quality young man. But I just feel like people feel like it's, this is another year in which some guy's done something record-breaking as far as home runs are concerned. And I think that's the main reason why the only place it is really a big deal, seemingly, is in New York City.
It's an interesting debate, and I've heard it really in different venues and so forth about the American League most valuable player. Now, Judge is trying to become a Triple Crown winner. Very legitimate chance to win a Triple Crown. And that normally would be automatic. You're going to be the most valuable player in your league. Having said that, you get to Shohei Ohtani and what he has done as a pitcher and a position player. Who do you think should win that award?
I think it's a slam dunk for Aaron Judge. That in no way does it minimize the accomplishments of Ohtani. I think he's the greatest athlete maybe in the history of baseball, quite honestly, given the fact that he's a top-notch pitcher and he's a great offensive player. But while home runs may seem like a ho-hum thing now, because of the nature of the beast, so to speak, winning a Triple Crown is a big deal. He's got the home run title locked up. He's got pretty much the RBI title locked up. The only question, as you stated a moment ago, is whether or not he can win the batting title. So for me, if I were voting, there is no question in my mind that Aaron Judge is the MVP of the American League. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a slam dunk.
Well, it's going to be really interesting to see that whole thing because, as you pointed out, and accurately so, and I spent, almost 14 years of my career living out west, not on the West Coast, but in Arizona. And it is a very real, and people out there don't want to hear it, but it is a very real bias towards people or players in any sport that are playing basically from the central time zone eastward than it is from the central time zone westward in terms of getting recognition, whether it's a player or as a team.
Well, I think it's the same thing. I can remember, the great run that the UCLA Bruins had back in the 60s. And this is maybe a bad comparison because you didn't have social media, you didn't have the internet and so forth. But even then, the little basketball that you got, you had to stay up until 11 o'clock or whatever the late night might be back east to watch a game. And that's carried on up until the time we live in right now. Because of the time difference of people back east, more often than not are going to have to read the next morning about what so-and-so did in Major League Baseball or college basketball or whatever the case might be. So I think that's a handicap to a player, especially whether you agree with this or not. As far as Ohtani is concerned, he's playing with a bad ball club. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people feel that certainly plays into your decision as to who's going to be the most valuable player. And that's why I've maintained for years now, you ought to have an MVP in both leagues. You also ought to have a player of the year in both leagues. That way, you can have a guy like an Ernie Banks way back years ago who was spectacular with a very poor Chicago Cubs team. He would have been the player of the year. Had little chance of being an MVP on any kind of consistent basis. So I think there are a lot of factors that come into play when you talk about a situation like this. And I don't know that there's a firm and deliberate answer, yes or no, in terms of, is he a candidate? Is he going to win it, or won't he win it to give way to Aaron Judge?
All right, let me ask you this. The Reds lost their 90th game of the year last night. They have, I believe it's 14 games left. They have
Correct.
one more with Boston tonight, and then a 4-game series against a Milwaukee team that is playing for their playoff lives in that wild card hunt, coming in for the first of 4 on Thursday night. Does it matter if the Reds lose 100 or not? I mean, does that number really at the end of the day mean anything?
That's a very good question, Tom. I've often maintained it's harder to lose 100 than it is to win 100. And I still feel that way. I think it means something in the sense that if they do it, they'll do something that only one club in the history of the Reds has ever done, and that's lose 100 games in one season. Maybe that makes a difference. At this late stage of the season, when guys are playing the string out, you got less than 2 weeks to go in the season, or 2-3 weeks, whatever the case might be. Probably not. Other than not wanting to be able to have people come up to you and say, well, you were a member of that Reds team that lost 100 games in 2022. I don't know. That's a tough. I think the answer to that question would depend upon who you talk to.
All right. Well, the Peanut Gallery here was talking about you at length earlier this morning, Dad, in Casey McAllister and Brandon Sejo. That's what I'm curious about, really. I tuned him out as soon as they started in. When Brandon made the comment about how you influence him now on where he gets his heating and air conditioning.
and my Laura's lean.
Well, you're obviously not eating Laura's lean.
Hey, the George Vogel and I, even jerky, we've said that probably, Marty, like 10,000 times over the last 5 years to each other.
There you go. See?
It works.
That's healthy, boy. It doesn't get any healthier than Laura's lean beef. I can tell you that.
God.
Whether it be 96% fat-free, 92% fat-free, over 12,000 stores in the United States carry it, and of course throughout the entire Kroger chain.
Glad we got the plug in.
Well, I'm not because we're not getting any money from Laura's lean. The only person getting money from Laura's lean in this whole conversation is him, not this program.
Well, Amanda and I are going to be down at the Wellness Festival that Kroger heads up outside the 2 ballparks this weekend, and we are going to prepare a dish of meatballs for the edification of those people who show up to see it. It'll be masses of people, I'm sure, and we look forward to it.
All right, well, I'm doing an interview with the Eli Young Band this weekend down there, so maybe I'll come down and get a plate.
Well, please do. I would welcome your appearance.
Thank you so
much.
Do
either one of you have anything else?
I did have a
question. Mr. Brennaman, you have a legitimate question somewhere in here?
Yeah, well, we were talking about it yesterday, Marty. Since I stopped covering them, I haven't really watched at all. Plus, they're losing every night almost. When's the last time you watched a full Reds game?
I can't tell you that. Probably when I was down there a few weeks ago to honor the late great Paul Kramer, who headed up the Kid Glove program, and Amanda and I were at the ballpark that night and watched an entire game. I watch them a lot when I'm home. I certainly don't let it dictate my social calendar. If I'm going to have an opportunity to go out and have dinner with friends or something like that, I'm not going to say I got to stay home and watch or listen to the ball game. And I'd say probably that might be the only time all year I've seen an entire game.
Casey, anything?
If I had something to ask you, Marty, it would probably be because I'm not the
Casey,
biggest.
Let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you a minute. Let me interrupt you 1 minute, and let me make a point that if you had to grade the two people most important to the success of this program, you would be number one, and Thom Brennaman would be number two. Now go ahead.
Where does Brandon fall in on
I'm
that?
not even
Brandon
in
distant third.
Well, Brad, he's coming hard. He's coming really hard. So that would put you. It'll be maybe 2 more days, and you'll be number 3.
I'm good with that. Believe me, I've been number 3 or lower for about the last 2.5 years, so I'm okay. Casey, please carry on.
Yeah. So, thank you, by the way, Marty. I appreciate the
you're
very
welcome.
flattering. My question to you is, I'm not much into baseball. I really want to be into baseball. Is there a team or is there something I should be looking out for that can get me hooked onto baseball right now? Because obviously the Reds are struggling right now. And I really wanted to follow the Reds, but I can't. I know their history too much. I'm a Bengals fan. I can't do that to myself. I can't continue being a fan of a team that just struggles and struggles and struggles. So, in your expert opinion, what's a team that I should be maybe looking at to watch that's really fun to watch? Or is there anything like that out there? A player maybe that I could really enjoy watching?
Well, I think the fun aspect of it, Casey, has to do with how successful a team is on the field. I don't think people are interested in watching a team to speak of on a regular basis that's had the kind of year, quite honestly, that the Reds have had. I think in a couple of years, this is really going to be a fun team to watch. If some of these kids that Nick Krall has traded for when he unloaded the talent earlier this year, their abilities come to fruition and they become very productive big league ball players. But I think, if you want to be a front runner, you have to love watching a team like the Dodgers play or the Yankees play or the Atlanta Braves play. And there's some other ones. I'm sure the team that Dusty has down in Houston, who I'm rooting like the Dickens to win a world championship, if for no other reason than for him, because I'm a big fan of Dusty Baker. But you pick and choose, but again, it's awfully easy to watch a team that's winning as opposed to watching a team that's not.
All right, that's a good answer. You came over the other day and watched the Bengals game at our house with your grandson and me. Will you be dialed in on the Bengalis this coming Sunday, or are you throwing in the towel early after the 0-2 start?
Oh, no, I'm not doing that. No.
You're not doing what? Watching the game or throwing in the towel?
No, I will. One, I'll watch the game, and two, I'm not throwing in the towel like some of these people who want to jump off the bridge downtown. I'm still now. If they get beat Sunday, check with me next week. That may be a different deal. But I'm going to be watching them. I'm also going to be paying a lot of attention to what happens in Chapel Hill when Carolina entertains the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, and I hope that Carolina can kick their ass.
Well, that's your alma mater. They're a high-scoring team, North Carolina. Notre Dame has a very hard time scoring. Would you ever have believed in your lifetime, and I'm serious about this, would you ever have believed in your lifetime that North Carolina would play Notre Dame and that North Carolina would be the favorite to win the game?
I would not. But let me say this, Tom, and I say this with all sincerity. The whole run that Brian Kelly had at Notre Dame, I rooted for them to get beat every weekend. Marcus Freeman, who I've never met, but everybody tells me this guy's about as classy a young man as there is on earth. I think he exuded that ability or that trait when he was here. I don't root as vociferously against them as I used to. Obviously, for the purposes of my alma mater, I'm certainly hoping Carolina can beat them at Chapel Hill on Saturday. But there are weekends now when I pull for him because I think he's a classy guy. I don't know that Brian Kelly knows how to spell that word.
So you're not rooting for the LSU Bengal Tigers week in and week out. Is that what you're saying?
Root for them to get beat every week. Every week.
Boy, that's tough. Okay.
Well,
you have some important function today, right? So we got to get you out of here. Is that correct?
Yes. I'm going to get in the car and drive to Dayton and talk to some business people that are being treated to lunch by the Dayton Dragons. Yes.
Well, let them know if any of them want to sponsor this program. We'd love to have them.
I certainly will.
Okay.
You can count on that.
Do you have a driver taking you up there? Is Amanda driving you? Do you drive yourself? Do they send a car for you, or how does that work?
What about security?
I don't have any of that. I've never had anybody drive me anywhere. Don't have security. I'm just a common guy.
Well, that's just wrong.
Common guy with that basement back there. Look at that basement.
Common guy with $1,000 shirts and.
That's right.
Not quite that much, but certainly more than that shirt that my son has on.
All right. Well, nice having you.
Right.
Safe travels up to Dayton. We love you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Same here, pal. Brandon and Casey, good luck, pal.
Thank you.
See it.
Believe me, they need
All right, see ya.
All right. Be well. All right. Well, Marty Brennaman, the Hall of Famer. Big LSU Notre Dame guy with Kelly there.